Hello there. Welcome. I'm going to do an energy check-in, and I don't have a whole lot of stuff that I've come to talk about today because I want to just kind of open up the space to whatever my guides and whatever spirit shows me is what we need to hear today. I'm sort of in a hibernatory state this weekend, just catching up on sleep and rest and self-care. And I was meditating this morning a little bit, and I was surrounded with purple light and green light and yellow light, and the energy of Saint Germain and the ultraviolet flame. It's really, really, really good for spiritual protection, calling upon that energy. And for what I've talked about in the past with like having light energy that is not tolerant of certain dark energies. So just making sure that you are surrounded and protected by things that keep the other stuff out. Yeah, I do have kind of some commentary just on, briefly, I'm going to cut this deck. We'll get into these cards, but I've been kind of tracking and following the fandom around Miss Taylor Swift for some months. Similarly with just like Ariana Grande, because I like to think about how the PR that a lot of people just think is sort of random is very much scheduled and scripted. As far as the timing with the publicization around Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's relationship. And then, at the Grammys, she announces her new album, and now it's out and the internet is having a feast over its contents, this new album. Haven't listened to it, but you don't really have to. It's fascinating how people extract lyrics and like within a day or two, which songs are like the ones that the public is having a field day over. And something I was thinking about yesterday, which you'll notice is the underpinning for any pop musician who's in sort of, the contractual confines of like the global superstars. There's a template and they all fit into this template. And we understand that when we look at like, they talk about certain songs that were written by Lady Gaga, but they ended up going to Kelly Clarkson, or, a song that was supposed to be for Pink and Camila Cabello ended up getting it. A lot of the people who write these songs are in the same club at the same table. And so what's interesting when we look at that it's less, Taylor Swift gets a lot of, feedback for being such a great songwriter, but it really is, we can never forget, it's not just Taylor Swift, it's not just Beyonce, it is tons and tons and tons of people carefully crafting and upholding this image that is personified by this one woman or man or figure. But it's very, very carefully curated, everything about it. And a lot of the lyrics are relatable for the masses as far as relationship struggles, but they almost never offer any type of resolution. So one of the lyrics on the Taylor Swift album that's been circulating is like, I can do it with a broken heart. All of her lyrics are very much like a warrior of love, but they do subtly reinforce toxic paradigms around love, and they don't offer any resolution. So there's a reason why people love this music. It's simple and accessible and relatable. But when we think about life imitates art, imitates life, a dissenter or somebody debating me and my stance on it would be like, well, she's a human woman girl having these experiences, writing these songs that reflect her experiences. That's true. But the themes and the ways that these quote unquote shared experiences have been sung about and how they've been framed for 25 years hasn't evolved. It's the same. It is the same. And I will be doing this as a breakdown on my website at some point. But that's on my mind, as well as some of the stuff that's just starting to like heighten in certain narratives, it's just going to get further and further stoked, like as we edge our way towards the election in America throughout the rest of the year. Interesting things around like Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. I think a lot of people are aware that TikTok might be banned, but a lot of people haven't really sunk into the meat and potatoes of like why that is and why we're thinking about TikTok and why the governments are thinking about TikTok and stuff. And when people talk about propaganda or the American people being surveyed and propagandized, and then you think about TikTok when you open up the phone and you're scrolling through it, like, I'm not sure, do people understand what that means? Yes, on the one hand, it's just a stirring of the pot. There's a strange amount of information that I believe is intended to reach the public and instill a little bit of fear within the public, but it's also basically just blatantly telling you that a lot of the things that you're seeing are not real, and they're being circulated with intent. So the theme is around discernment and discernment of content, discernment of information, discernment of vibration, and discernment of the cyclical stuff that's really very much part of the propagated narratives within the limiting stuff that's kept people on loops. And then the alternative is what a lot of people, I think, have a hard time. I see a chameleon with those little hands that they have, and when the chameleon like doesn't have any more, it just keeps grabbing. Like, a lot of people are just kind of like reaching out looking for a branch that does not branch off of this tangled web that we're all kind of stuck in and part of, and like trying to it was weeks ago when I was like, oh, I have far better things to do than watch Netflix and stream content. But then I was like, I'm going to download Netflix again just so I can watch Love is Blind. And I did that. And then I started up The Good Place because I quite like that show. And then I forgot that I had just started my subscription again to exclusively watch Love is Blind. And then it expired again. And I was like, that's probably for the best. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get current energy to embrace, energy to release. Current is the Eight of Pentacles. Energy to embrace is the Lovers. Energy to release is Justice. Yeah, I'm going to use these cards. I'm going to clarify. I have to shuffle these on the floor because they're really slippery. Clarifying Eight of Pentacles in the current energy, we have the Queen of Wands. Clarifying the Lovers in the energy to embrace, we have the Eight of Swords. Clarifying Justice in the energy to release, we have the Eight of Wands. Okay. So I'm taking kind of all three placements as a continuation of the way that I've been talking about these placements and the energy for the last couple readings. Queen of Wands has come out just a couple times, and I've been talking about it as far as like remembering confidence, right? When we're on a path of growth and increasing our abilities and expanding our scope when we're releasing things and welcoming new things in, as far as the pace of our awareness, revealing to us tired ways of being, showing us how they align with new ways of doing things that we would do well to. And I'm seeing somebody in front of a coat rack. Like, you want to put on the one hat, but you already have a hat on. You have to take off this hat in order to put on the next hat. The next hat has, like, you know, goggles or something a little bit more practical because you're about to go into a sandstorm. Who knows, you know? There's this shuffling through that we've been doing. And whenever you're consciously expanding yourself and trying to be better and do better and go a little bit further than what you've been able to do before, not in this relentless, you know, exhaustive way, but in a natural way that honors the very way your soul is actually always desperately seeking for expansion. A lot of people who stagnate and they don't understand why they're not happy, it's because their soul never stops wanting expansion. And so when we're at the bounds of our comfort zone and we're trying to work on, you know, expanding into something else, to put on confidence, like one of those accessories, it almost feels fraudulent. I think I'm getting like energy of imposter syndrome here. You have to convince yourself that you're confident in your expansion, even if you're not in a queenly seat within that new territory. It's okay to still be confident in the fact that you're growing and evolving into something else. And again, carrying on the themes from the readings of the past couple weeks, I think that what we're growing and evolving into with energy to embrace, with the lovers, is a balanced expression of self that if you're not, like, this could be a relationship card, but if you're not in a relationship, this is the way you put yourself into being, you know, the best version of you that's going to attract the type of person that you actually want to be with and like plant a garden with, you know. So it doesn't have to be about, you know, the lovers in such a literal sense, because it has to do with the way that you reflect against your own self, right? Against another, sure, or against the empty space that another would fill in a partnership. But it has to do with healing the masculine and feminine energies. And a lot of the stuff that's been changing throughout Aries season. And now we're arriving tomorrow at this full moon in Scorpio. Which is reminiscent of some of the deeper lessons that we were pulling together during the fall around transformation, death, and rebirth with the snake, Scorpio vibes. I'm seeing the death card. So the energy to embrace here, with that setting the stage around continuing to put in hard work. And like, again, it's like it has this kind of exhaustive quality to it. But when you remember, like today, for instance, I have so much to do. I could do so many things. I could probably run 5 loads of laundry. I could clean my kitchen. I could sort through all this art supplies, stuff that needs homes and places to live. But I've decided that I don't have that in me today. I'm very much, this is the current energy, right? Working on things, having things in front of us to work on, being able to stay in this like confident sound in the kingdom energy. But it's okay if you're moving through that at your own pace. It doesn't have to be relentless. It doesn't have to be without the R&R that I talked about. If you didn't watch it, go look at my, like the homepage of the YouTube channel where you can click on the shorts. And I posted one about the palindrome quarter that we've entered. It's the 20s. The 20s of April in the year 2024 function as this mirrored date thing. And it's what we had last year, but we had it in March during the 20s. It functions differently. You know, 4 is a different number than 3. The purpose of this passage is different than it was in March. And it's making me think about what I was speaking on a few weeks ago with this, excuse me, quantum pancake, where it's like Schrodinger's something. It's like, it's a will they, won't they, is it there, is it not, yes or no, this flipping. And also see Merkaba crystals. Where's my green aventurine? I think I've relocated it. Yeah. Like a Merkaba crystal spinning so quickly that it's generating light. This is a quarter in the 20s of April where it's like another wormhole, where you have the potential to clear out a lot of the stuff that I talked about, where it's like, that is no longer a hat that goes with your outfit. That is no longer, and an outfit takes a few different pieces to assemble. You might have, I'm seeing a woman who's dressed from like the 1800s. So she's got a lot of stuff going on, right? There's like the poodle skirt, all the layers, a bag, a bonnet, gloves that go up to the elbow. When you take something off and put on a new garment, that thing is going to clash. It's going to be the thing that doesn't go with the rest of the ensemble. And there's this scare factor around, like, if you start to embody yourself in a new way, right? Or the ego, like, we want to be, whether we know it or not, we like to have these urges and these nudges from the outside world around us that affirm that we're moving in the right direction. And a lot of the times, if you're moving on a soul-led path, you're not going to get that confirmation or affirmation from outside of you. And if you forget that and then you don't get it, you can sort of double back and get back on that like magnetic path that the world and a lot of oppressive forces want for people to stay on and stay within inside these bounds that keep people operating in a world that does not honor the existence of magic and the potential of humans to expand and heal and all of that. So what I'm seeing is that there's like something like these little, what is this? Well, it's like a fishing rod. When I was a child, we had an antique in my house, and it was something of like, think Rumpelstiltskin. It was like not a loom, it was a spinning wheel. Had a big wheel and a lever, and I played with it a lot as a child, but you could wind it up and watch the wheel go. But it was this old wooden spinning thing. And there's something about this energy. We can get spun up with acceleration and momentum into either direction. The distractions and the chaos of the world that's like clawing, clinging at people and their attention to stay engrossed in that space. Or you can start to spin, further into the direction of your own weaving. And if you've found my channel or connect with the information that I provide you, you already have something that it is that you're doing. You already know what that feels like for you. And if you don't, it would be like, if you're standing in a certain place and your heart chakra, or like really the access of your human field, your essence, is like a beacon, like a flashlight. You're pointing out somewhere, and your light, when it projects, it is showing the way of a new, untrodden path that your soul and your life has shown you is the way for you to go. A lot of people feel like that, but don't know what to do with it, because the way that it's pointing is a way that illuminates another way for like all of the world to be, right? And I think a lot of people right now are capable of manifesting and seeing into these future potentials for humanity, where it's not as dystopic as basically any other future that we've ever been shown by like the media, or like, sci-fi future, whatever. Artificial intelligence and robots, for example, doesn't have to be evil, doesn't have to be bad. ET beings, multidimensionality doesn't have to be evil, doesn't have to be invasive and oppressive and bad. We could be on the brink of a beautiful era for humanity, wherein the public favor has tipped so much that people don't want to do things like pollute the earth, and partake in fast fashion and support the incredibly heinous and toxic agricultural industrial food system anymore. And there could be this return to local and smaller supply chains within different kinds of communities. But on top of that, access with free energy in a lot of different, it's very, very, very high technology, but to the point where it's like magic. And this is going to help us with lots of different kinds of diseases and ailments, as well as the way that we are fueling the power grids, all different kinds of solutions coming in easily to Earth over the next decade or two. And then what do we experience? It's going to be like a renaissance, where if people's needs are met, and then we're not in survival mode as we have been for a very long time, you're going to be able to create, and there's just going to be an abundance of people who are no longer surviving in order to sustain a system that keeps them enslaved, and they're able to produce creative work and exciting things. So what I'm getting off of the Lovers and the Eight of Swords and the energy to embrace is that, and I said this I never finished this thought, so it's coming back to me now, but there was like that loom or that spinning wheel, almost like the threads get stuck. There's definitely this momentum in a way that if you have a light that's leading you, lighting your path and leading you into a different direction than the mainstream way of being brought through life, it's of your own volition, your free will, and your own making to pursue that and forge a connection to that. And that's a little controversial, because I think for some people it's actually not of your own will. Like, for example, I've had that kind of destined, illuminated path that's been shown to me for a very long time. And there's been periods of my life where I did shut down and say, I can't, whatever that is, it looks great, I'm too tired. I don't have enough. I can't, whatever it is. And I've shut down and I've stepped off the path for a little bit and tried to be a normal person, for a couple years or a few years. You can't get off that path, though. You can't get off that path. So it's of your own making. It's of your free will to pursue it or not. But your free will has boundaries and edges where it acts within the framework of the life that you've come into. It has the ability to act within the framework of the life you've come into. And when we come into a physical human body, we sometimes forget the arrangement that our spirit made, where we don't understand these pre-existing circumstances, but our spirit does and is ready to work with them to enact whatever it is we're here to enact. So there's a little bit, because it's your own path and it's not the easy way. Because it's your own path and it's not the easy way, the thread might get tangled just a little bit sometimes. And that's what I'm getting off of this Eight of Swords. And that's not a bad thing. This is in the energy to embrace position. So something about the way you're pushing your dreams along right now and moving your ideas through the physical world and allowing them to bump up against obstacles, and then you kind of pull them back and reroute them and let them choose a new, you're course correcting, making minor adjustments. This is in the energy to embrace. It's a way of honoring the yin and yang within yourself. There's a season to push and there's a season to submit. There's a time to let things flow. You shouldn't try to force or control other people ever, but the way that you want your impact to come across, all of that has to be surrendered, but also defended in that masculine, feminine, yin yang of the self, where regardless of whatever primary role models or lack of primary caretakers and role models, like that imprinting that you have grown up with, there's something within that you're going to overwrite, because that's what ancestral healing is. And so there's something coming into our awareness about that right now. And it might go so deep as to trigger different types of memories or situations from early like young adulthood and then childhood and then a seed of a memory from even earlier childhood. Like I'm seeing an accordion, a piece of paper that was folded a bunch of different times, and there's going to be these points that line up where there was this moment or there's a theme that's been acting within our relationship to what it means to be like a woman or a man, or then if you're the opposite gender, what it means to be in relation to women or men. Something about it where we're seeing it through a couple different chapters of our lives, but it's very much the same energy or the same misconception or the same trained and taught belief that's unwinding. And so the moments that we get stuck just require closer examination. You wouldn't want to blow by them without stuckness. So the little bits of stuckness and second guessing are a blessing because they're doing what it is needs to be done, causing you to do what you need to do in order to make sure that you go forward, continuing to be confident, right? Resolving whatever gets stuck and whatever doesn't seem to make sense in this new territory, because it's not territory that's been tread for you. It's a path that you are walking. Clarify that, please. I just want a clarification card for that message. It's the Artist. Yeah, I don't really have to elucidate this much because it's pretty much like, you know, a perfect... Oh, by the way, there was weeks ago when I pulled this out and I was like, is it Icarus who flew too close to the sun? Is it Nike? It's Hermes. I was compelled to pronounce it like high fashion, like Hermes. But anyway, he's got winged ankles. And I like that too, because it's like he's earthbound, he's naked, he's in his like, you know, earth mortal coil form. He could fly in a type of, you know, demigod type way, or like the son of gods, like getting into Greek mythology here with the wings on the ankles, but he's earthbound, right? He understands that he's on an earth plane where we've got these clouds and these forms and these shapes, and it's almost like he's in one land, peering across the expanse of stars and open air into a different land, right? It's very much rendering collapse. It's evocative of being able to be in one land and create one that doesn't exist. And then even beyond that, where is that going to go, you know? Ascending into these different levels and seeing matter and space and time as malleable and taking shape around you with every thought, with every intention, and with every move that you make. So that's clarifying that message. It's also, this is a message that I got yesterday. I forgot about till this very moment. It's so incredibly important to try to control, particularly in these 9 days that we're in this palindrome quarter, but really all the time. It's very important to be mindful of your personal utterances, like what comes out of your mouth. Are you speaking negatively on things? Like a lot of the times people would consider, I think a lot of people would say, I'm a positive person. I'm nice to people. I have a good personality. I try my best to be nice and do nice things. But then like say they are done with the day and there's just this one little thing, like, you know, it's their in-law or something, and they're so annoyed and they're gossiping about that person and talking about that with the safety and the closeness of their BFF. It's still a choice to let the part of us that gets so irritated with another person or a situation, it's just the part of us that gets so irritated. You're still allowing it to have its little heyday and like churn all of that out. And on the one hand, a person might be like, well, that's healthy to be able to talk through the things that are bothering, you know, a person. But there's something around the ego indulgence of being right, being able to point out what's wrong with other people. There's a weird kind of satisfaction that the ego takes within that. And a lot of people see it as like necessary to try to churn through what it is that's bothering them in detail. But it's not necessary. It's not necessary if you get to a place where you're taking the high road and you're releasing and transmuting. The difference is like when you take accountability for yourself and your energy and your place, and then you can separate the rest of the energy in any given dynamic or interaction from that, you can proceed without having to do any amount of that. Like, oh, can I vent to you about, that's an energetic level up that people will outgrow. It's not necessary. That only actually bites you in the butt. If you choose, if you say that you need to do that and have that, it's like the flashlight of your attention is shining it again into what you don't like or what you noticed was wrong, right? And it may be that you're right about everything you feel and everything you notice, but what are you going to do with that then? Shine your light on it so that it has all the focus and attention, or accept it for what it is? Understand that it would be the case with or without your existence, maybe in some cases. And then you reorient and you refocus and you try not to skip a beat in between your acknowledgement of whatever it is that's bothering you or not satisfying you or not meeting your personal benchmark of what would be exceptional or on par in any given situation. You refocus without that buffer of needing to go stir the pot of the negativity on what it is you want to see, and you keep acting in that vein. And when I say acting, I don't mean pretending, I mean conducting yourself. Now, what's the energy to release? Justice and the Eight of Wands. I'm going to get a clarifier on this because I don't quite understand. What I heard is bottom of this deck and bottom of the other deck. Queen of Cups. Death. Okay. Eight of Wands, Queen of Cups, Justice, and Death. Okay, and it's in the energy to release position. So I did kind of see this card earlier talking about tomorrow's full moon in Scorpio. This full moon's asking us to just, like I said before, with the hats and the accessories, it's like standing in front of a coat rack with all this stuff. Like, we want to take a look at ourselves. I mean, actually, I don't think we do want this, but the moon and the energy right now is asking us to do it. It's like all of a sudden, it's like we've been moving really quickly. And I'm seeing the doors that automatically, like at a subway train, they go and they open. You can't go in until they open. There's some sort of active motion seen, but we, during this full moon, have ended, we're behind the doors, we can't enter yet, but there's a mirror right across from us. So this full moon is it's positioning us into this very unique place where just at the right second, at the right time, we happen to look over and catch a sight of our reflection, and we're like totally mismatched. We've got like earmuffs on, we've got like a strange dunce cap. Like, why would we be wearing that? When did we put that on? We've got like, like elbow pads and stuff. Like, the whole thing is not an outfit. It's not working. And it's almost this feeling of like, who let me leave the house this way? Did I do this? Did I get dressed today? Have I been wearing this for years? There's something, and I mean, take that, there's scales of magnitude within this. Maybe one person is like, oh no, the earrings don't match, and that's it. But then another person might be like, who in their right mind, head to toe, not okay. It's like this reprieve, this little moment where we catch ourselves and we don't like the getup. We want to change some stuff out. So there's something a little bit uncomfortable around this. I mean, this is the release position. So let me back up a little bit. With Justice and Death, what I'm getting is that in order for us to shed these layers and fully purge out some of this emotional stuckness that's prevented us from integrating in the way that the universe and the lessons have slowly been guiding us, slowly for almost a year now, we've been on this thing. I mean, for a very long time. Everybody's on their own timeline, but I've been narrating it for almost a year now in a similar way. There's something that is coming to a head with this full moon, where it's almost like we'd like for things to make more sense. This is inner child work, and this is also ego, our like self-mastery around, we want it to make more sense. We want it to be more fair. We want it to be more fair. There's something that wasn't fair or doesn't feel fair. But again, it's like you're the bigger person. Potentially, you're the bigger person. Like, it also makes me think, and this is something that I reference all the time, really, in an ongoing manner, because it's such a good, potent lesson, but it's from Harry Potter, and it's from the third one, Prisoner of Azkaban. And it's when Harry thinks that his dad is going to appear and cast the Patronus, and he realizes that it was just him in a different timeline, a different time loop. It was him. Nobody's going to show up. He is the one who has to step into the void and make something happen. And he didn't believe that that was true. There was no way for him to believe that it wasn't his dad until he's in that moment and he sees that there was nobody showing up. This is kind of the moment that I'm talking about with like catching our reflection. And it's like, I'm saddled with this funky outfit, and it might have to do with like core wounds and things that we weren't responsible for, you know? And there's that quote where it's like, you're not responsible for what happens to you as a child, but you are responsible for acknowledging how that makes you as an adult, and then the kind of adult that you are. And a lot of people are not responsible for the kinds of adults that they are as a result of what they endured in childhood. And as the generations progress, I think a lot of people are coming into the knowing that almost everybody, every generation carries different kinds of trauma. There's been very specific targeted levels of trauma in a blanket societal manner at each generation. For about, well, I don't want to go into that because that's, again, what I'm going to get into on the website with like just history and why we're even here and how we got here and what's been happening for the last 100 years and all that. So it's almost like we have to be able to give our inner children a hug and allow for things to be as they are, even if they aren't fair, to go through this transformational period and, you know, take off the accessories without making a big fuss about it, right? Something about releasing what we thought things would be or feel like to have that justice. I don't know. This is, when you think about the big karmic wheel, sometimes our version of karma and justice and equality is only a portion of the whole picture of the energetic motion of why something is the way that it is. And that's where faith comes in and trust in the larger machine of the energetics. Like, I think about, again, like me interacting with anybody or person that feels like so unjust or crazy. And I'm like, okay, I'm made to feel this way right now because I probably at some point made somebody else feel this way. And I didn't know at the time. And this is my karma right now. I'm going to endure this and try to handle it in a way that preserves myself energetically and respects myself. Hello, sweet. Hi. You go lie down, maybe? My dog has diabetes and we're adjusting to that, but I am a pee pad household now and I don't love that because who would? Who wants like puddles of urine just out in the house? Like, no, it's not my dream. It's not what I want, but it's necessary because the dog can't hold his pee anymore, really. And instead of utilizing the many pee pads that I've taken him on a generous tour of, like, hey, there's one here, 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 there's two over here, he pees next to them every single time. And I love this dog, and I don't understand what the miscommunication is, but we're working on it. It's like my biggest frustration right now. Like, if I go somewhere, if I come home from work, I always, every single time I'm cleaning up a puddle of pee. And I don't love that, but I think he's ruined 3 rugs. Not happy, but I forgive him. We're making it work. Yeah. So I'm getting another message. I'm trying to refocus on this foursome here. And I'm getting another message with, I mean, we've got 2 decks. There's a clear division, 2 and 2. And I drew Justice and the 8 of Wands, and then I clarified with Death and the Queen of Cups. And the other half of what I could say about this in the release position is that it's almost like something within the wounded masculine polarity, or any person who has ever had a wounding with the feminine energy. Queen of Cups, this is maternal. It's a card of like Cancerian energy, and Cancer is the mother of the zodiac. And this 8 of Wands, like I'm seeing again with like the wands moving through the air, it's fast energy, but like with that sound, like moving through the air. It's almost like this is just what I'm getting through channel, so just let it be what it is. This is the message I'm getting. It's like wrapping something up, okay? And with that, I'm getting like swaddled energy, something around wanting to be swaddled and coddled by the unfair parts of life or certain situations, needing to let that go. A lot of men who are coddled at an early age by a woman, they don't understand how to create a healthy, balanced relationship with a woman in adulthood if that woman doesn't dote on them and fill in the blanks as a mother would. And generationally, this has been a hard thing for men and women, because a lot of people were born in a time, well, I mean, there was a time when that was more so the way that it went. Or like housemakers and like working men. Like, it's interesting because generationally, I mean, a lot of the different traumas are like inabilities of men and women from each generation that kind of like walk the earth right now and are coexisting together. It's really easy to see why there would be certain trauma in certain generations, or certain foundational impressions that shape the attitude and the way of an entire group of people. It's almost, I'm hearing I don't want to be like Cinderella song, sitting in a dark cold dusty cellar waiting for somebody to come and set me free. There's the other side of it where it's like my generation took the female empowerment and feminism to the other extreme, where it's like, I don't need no man, fuck men are trash. That's not any good either. And men are suffering as a result of that in today's world. And it's making toxic men more toxic. And it's making women, well, I don't want to go on that tangent right now, but I think that people who understand what I'm getting at will kind of understand what I'm getting at. But whether or not you're a man or a woman, there's something around understanding that without being in a tantrum state of devastation, there's nobody that's going to come and save you. And that's actually okay. You don't need that. Expecting that and wanting that is part of what keeps you in this state. That's not how it's supposed to go. That's never how it was supposed to go. You don't need that or want that, There's a part of your spirit, like sometimes if I'm having a hard time composing myself or conducting myself in a way that feels true and mature, I think about myself as an old woman, like my higher self. Like, what would 111-year-old Mariah do? What would the part of me that I feel as a simultaneous self or a past life, as a any number of things. I think about that show Sense8 again, where they're basically just beings that share an oversoul. And then also just the lesson that like within one human walking the earth, there's evidence of the traits or predispositions of thousands of your ancestors within you. You are the walking embodiment of their trauma, but also their strengths, right? it's interesting to think of behaving as yourself and acting in the world as channeling your ancestors. And I've said this before, but they have great stake, great investment in your success on earth. You know, people who think that they're forgotten or not supported or loved or protected or seen spiritually. We are all witnessed and supported. All right. What's the hidden energy? I'm sorry, I want to get the biggest advice. And I'm going to clarify it by taking the first card off the top of this deck. What's the biggest advice right now? It's the Four of Swords and the Seven of Wands. So make sure that you're taking time out to rest and recharge while you persevere. We can't really fully suction cup. I see a Plico. I can't remember the full title of this fish, but they look like catfish and they suction. They're algae eaters. Seeing one suction off of, there's something about what we're doing. We're very much suctioned up to the glass of this passage right now. So while you are continuing to kind of examine and feel into the changes that are unearthing things, like underneath our very feet, the earth is moving. This is also an allusion to like earthquakes and some of the actual physical changes that are being stirred up in Earth's energy right now via weather and different kinds of shifts. Like I saw this article that was like, in Italy, there's a volcano that's just been blowing smoke rings. It's kind of magnificent. Look up the photos of that if you didn't see it. Resting. And I had her out in the reading from last week with like Joan of Arc energy. These two cards go very well together because this is about, you know, it's like a fighting, but it's like the fighting that's necessary. And then this card again is good for thinking about a harmonized union of the two parts of the pie that every human possesses. Sun and moon, yin and yang. So that's the advice, and I said I'd clarify it with this card. Oh. Well, I'm going to take it because my conscious mind didn't catch that, and then I was told to take the first card off the top. So it's the Queen of Wands again. So you've got this, even if you feel like you don't. In fact, if you feel like you don't, it's a sign that you do, because when we're in the dark and we're trusting ourselves and you're not letting yourself buckle in the uncertainty, that's when you emerge in this energy. You know what I mean? Like if you shut down and said, I don't understand what's happening. I don't, whatever it is that you're dealing with, or you just slip into that less conscious state of advancing things right now, because there's a lot of forces in the world that want for people to just curl up and stop considering things and roll, you know, down the road in a state of autopilot instead of fully consciously processing certain things as they unfold and they progress. So that's the biggest advice. What do we not see? What's the hidden energy? The Well. What I get off of this is what I was saying before around like the very particular place that we find ourselves when it comes to healing and detangling the knots of the necklace, or those earlier, deeper rungs of the twisty, that you literally can't populate change on the surface if there's something deep down that's informing the code. Everything that gets coded or populated from this, you know, place of convolution, you have to unwrite everything up until that deeper place. And that's what's being touched right now. That's why this moment where we catch a glimpse of our reflection and we're like, who the F put this outfit together? It's running pretty deep. So if this full moon in Scorpio tries to dredge up some stuff that you're really uncomfortable with, then it's in your best interest to let that happen and to fully look it in the eyes even if it requires doing a little bit of, uncomfortable, radical acceptance around the things that you haven't been able to change, the things that you were never capable of changing. There's going to be a little bit of reallocation with the way that we've held blame up against two parties in our lives that are potentially to blame. But when we hold those piles of blame, right, that you only, you can see people for having done things the way that they've done them, but when you choose to continue to hold grudges, that you are holding the other end of that rope. So forgiveness isn't about letting other people know that what they did was fine. It's about setting yourself free. So it's just a message coming through about forgiveness as well, and allowing yourself to truly transcend whatever gets unearthed during this full moon. It's like a choice. It's a choice. 10 of Wands is at the bottom of the deck. There's a choice to not, again, what I said before, like with forgiveness, it's a choice to let go of your part of the rope. And I've known people, I've personally been in the position of, but I've known people who have said, of all the things in my life that I've been through, or of all the people, like I would never forgive them though. They will never have my forgiveness. And like, that's a choice. But just know that for their whole life then, they're going to carry that, the other end of that rope, They're going to have a burden in their satchel. And whatever you have on your person, whatever you have in your heart, that's part of what you're manifesting from. So if we have tons and tons of people who aren't able to transcend their own pain and the systemic collective traumas, then we're all manifesting, co-creating, manifesting, co-manifesting, and co-creating the world that we live in from those damaged places. This kind of goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of the message, where I was talking about music and messages in music. Lyrics have never offered any type of resolution to the kind of pain dynamics that they highlight. And that's very intentional. So I just implore people, I beseech thee, to take note of that. It's fascinating. In this way and people like tip off into the conspiracy thing. Yes, evil and good and whatever, just simply notice it from a neutral stance. Like, listen to all the songs on the radio all the time. There's a reason for that. They're not about, they're songs that let people validate the burden, the satchel of shit that they're carrying. You are justified for having all that hate in your heart. So keep it up, sweetie. That's a lot of what the messaging is today. It's really, really dangerous for young people in particular, who, when you're a young person and your emotions, it's do or die. It's so intense. Everybody remembers what it was like to be a teenager. Like, you feel like everything's the end of the world. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a teenager in today's world. But just a little note on that. Advice, the hidden energy. What's the biggest cautionary... What's the biggest cautionary word right now? I'm just going to pull it. I feel it here. Where is it? Okay, this card. This came out, though. It's the other Queen of Wands. She just really wants to be seen today, okay? She wants to be seen. She wants to be understood. It's just reiterating. I said cautionary word, like, make sure, if there's anything that you take away from listening to this reading today, what is it? It's the Queen of Wands again. So that means that it's sort of a fake it till you make it energy, but I never like that energy. I don't like that saying, because there's no reason to be fake. It's actually okay to be very confident even when you're slightly outside of your comfort zone. And I think a person might be like, well, how do you do that? Like if you're out, you are confident or you're not. And if you're not and you pretend to be, then people can tell, and that doesn't work, you know. But where does confidence come from, and what is it, you know? And there's something around, like, say I'm outside of my comfort zone. Oh no, here I am. And I can still be confident in the fact that it's okay to be a person who's good at many things, but a beginner at a bunch of other things. It's okay to be a person who, you know, being out, it's interesting the way that we think that if we're not fully proficient and competent and exemplary at everything from the get-go, that we have no place to even show up in a space or try or learn, you know, or be present or be respected, when we still do garner respect and attention regardless of our level of mastery or anything, you know, in any given field. So anyway, it's just reminding us that confidence is key. And the confidence doesn't come from your ability, you know, it doesn't come from what you have or what you can do. It comes from the fact that there's this birthright within anybody's existence where you're allowed to feel okay about who you are and what you're doing. And people forget that because we live in a very judgmental world, okay? And then I'm also drawn to, does she have this in both cards? Yeah, I think in every Queen of Wands, there's always a sunflower. So if you see sunflowers today or around the time of viewing this message, it's a synchronicity for you to remember your personal confidence and that you don't have to do anything or perform anything to be worthy of just feeling that way. Because another thing that I keep putting it back and pulling it back out, another thing I like to highlight with this queen against some of the other queens is that she's a little bit more, she's like me. She's wearing a robe, you know what I mean? This is comfort. This is like chillaxing. You deserve that. Everybody deserves that. Regardless of, you know, what the world attempts to tell us around the fact that we're running out of time and resources and everything else. So the other card that came out with that cautionary queen, the second Queen of Wands that I pulled, was this Ten of Pentacles. And what I'm getting here is that there's a lot of stability to be gained from swapping around the hats and the accessories and kind of doing that work, whatever that means for you. There's a lot of stability to be gained from that, where it's, like I said before, like on the collective level, where's humanity heading? Well, we could be on the brink of a really beautiful creative renaissance for a lot of people. That could begin soon for some, you know, that could begin soon for some people, and it could start to seed the earth with examples of how this can be possible for other people in the years to follow. So, something about not being, and I'm hearing flow and surrender. So I was going to say not being confident or bold enough to do the work, blah, 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 the healing work. What's counterintuitive about it is that it is this childlike state of submission. Again, like life isn't always fair. With the Death card and the Justice card, the Eight of Wands, the Queen of Cups, there is like this undercurrent of like maternal wounding and what we want, right, out of life and disappointments. Because, I mean, it's sort of a psychological, I don't know if this is Freudian or what. We're all just trying to find our way back to the womb. You know, there's the thought that in life, we never ever feel as safe as we did when we were unborn, but conscious. And within that, there's almost this resentment for the mother for birthing us in the first place. Like, I didn't ask to be here. And yet, so if we can come to terms with whatever it is that's being like sussed up from within our depths right now, then we have the potential to create new things on solid ground where we're in a relaxed energy that does not feel as fight or flight as it has been for a long time. That's beautiful. That's super beautiful. Cut the deck to clarify that. It's the other Eight of Wands, but it's not the kind that just has the wands. It's the horsewoman kind. Could it focus on this card, please? Maybe not. Whatever. So being able to have that foundation and then have things accelerate quickly off of it. We like that. So I'm going to do an angel answer, just one. If you have a question, I'm going to get a card for it with the angel answers. But first, I'm going to take 2 Ascended Masters guides to kind of help clarify the energy right now and what we can lean into, and then 1 star seed and then 1 angel answer. So 2 of these guys, 1 star seed. Thank you for watching the video. If you've chosen to watch this video today, I hope that you find it helpful and that sitting with me is, relaxing for you and your energy. Sometimes I think that even if a person doesn't really care about what I'm saying, that just having, something to connect to slow down with is very important. That's like why I watch certain videos sometimes, or different, like I've got different playlists on YouTube of videos that I want to watch, and sometimes they'll be super long, but they're more or less just like lectures about different things, like complicated topics, and it's just like 2 hours long, and just put it on to be able to connect to something. To kind of slow down, like a meditation. Okay, I have another quick message about meditation right now, because it's a little bit more of an active energetic transit. And finding the time to ground and connect either outside, like, earthing, like sitting on the earth, lying down, having bare feet on the earth. If you don't have time to do like meditation like that, but you do have time to go for a little bit of a walk, there's something really, really powerful that you can do when you're walking. I do this all the time, but it's a walking meditation where you are asking each energy center of your body, like as far as the chakras go, and we do have 12 chakras, not just 7 within the body, but Earth Star, Soul Star. What are the other ones? I should probably do a video on all that. I need to refresh myself on all of them. But when you're walking, when your energy is in motion, there's something different going on than when you're at rest. And so keying into, at least we'll think about the 7 chakras, not go into the full 12, but the root, the sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, and crown. When you're moving, you can do these really drastic realignments and clear out a lot of energy and ask for your attention within each energy center. Say you were walking and you're starting at the base of the spine and you're focusing on like a red light, a bright red light, and you're turning that light into an orange light as your attention. Like if you focus in that area and you don't feel like there's movement, or you can feel and connect to, heat or like a spinning energy, that you will sit with that energy center until you feel like you can connect to it. And then once you do, you can move on to the next one, and you can turn that light, that red light, into an orange light as you let it, move into the sacral, and sort of do this body scan. But if you do it when you're walking, you'll feel different things within your body's alignment that shift as you're doing a bit of a body scan with the chakras. And for me, it's so impactful. It's not for everybody, but if you're like, especially right now, different kinds of aches and pains with the energetic adjustments, I know that a lot of people who aren't necessarily as psychic or have like serious downloads and stuff, you might just be feeling really tired or kind of like aches and painsy. It also, like, sometimes, like, if you think about, if you have a night of drinking and the way that alcohol stores and keeps lactic acid in your muscles, you could wake up and feel like you did like a really hard workout or something, but all you did was like have a night out at the bars. People might be feeling that even if you're not drinking right now, and that too has to do with moving energy through the body and making sure that you're doing like little stretches and stuff. Like, I will pull these cards, but I'm just talking about this because I think it's really important, you know, like there's a lot of things that we need to keep moving right now. And if we don't, they can compound within our bodies and our energies and turn into disease and stuck energy. And we don't want that. We do not want that. And it's like, it's not a fearful thing because it's just as easy to make sure it doesn't happen, right? I've been in this like very like 80s, 90s, like Jane Fonda workout mode. They had it all figured out. If you think about the fitness from back then, today's fitness culture for me is a little whack. But I think that we sort of peaked in terms of like a fitness society, and then it got a little weird. All you need is like, you know, those little bike shorts, like march in place, do some little stretches, you're good. Those were simpler days. Those people were very fit and healthy, but not like crazy, you know. Forgive me if I'm just asserting my personal judgment, but I think a lot of the times these days people don't know how to just do things in moderation, including exercise and eating. All right. I'm just shuffling the Starseed Oracle real quick, and then I'll get the Ascended Masters. All right, so our Ascended Masters for this message that I've just finished recording, Lord Shiva, Transcendence. Love this. I've been thinking and talking about Shiva recently. Rise up, honor your inner force. Steps are being given. Dance with the universe. Yeah, I like this. I don't even want to extrapolate on it because it feels so apropos for everything. I mean... for the motion thing that I just talked about, but also death and rebirth, transcendence, you know? Death and rebirth just being states of change. Endings and beginnings being just turning the pages of books. Oh my gosh, the Miriam, Sacred Vision. This is another one that, like, when I use this deck, I've had a few cards that have followed me, followed us, followed the readings. This is one of them, the Miriam. And it says, choose to forgive in order to heal. See the light in all. Remember that love has no boundaries. This is the work that a lot of us are going to be called to do for this full moon in Scorpio. There's some kind of forgiveness that's been evading us, and whatever it's been keeping us from integrating is what's being asked to come into the full picture now. And that's really beautiful. There's something a little bit painful about it, but it's not outside of anybody's ability, you know? Yep. And here's the card from the Starseed. It says, a new earth. It's happening. Keep holding the vision. This is exactly what I talked about when I talked about people exiting states of fight or flight, being able to live in a creative mode where we are successfully raising children who are actually not that traumatized. Children are being born into the world with really magnificent gifts, and the kids that are being born, if we can protect them and ensure that they don't get, you know, swept into these reliant systems, the children are going to help heal the earth. The children are going to have genius ideas and ways of coexisting. Fascinating videos on the internet of kids talking about mindfulness, talking about consciousness. It comes very, very naturally to them. I love it. Don't give up now. You're closer than you think. I know it's hard to hold the frequency of a new age when it feels as if so much is crumbling and so many are losing faith. This is your sign that you're facing the right direction. You have a great gift in being able to see the potential of things before they exist. Tend to new seeds. Dream them into existence. Don't lose faith now. Keep your focus fixed. Planting new seeds and bringing about a shift of the ages is no mean feat. It requires extreme trust and a radical vision. If you pull this card, it's a reminder to have faith. You chose to be here, to be part of this global shift. Whether you're bringing it about through prayer and meditation or through working on a new project, job, or creation, keep going. It's happening. Don't give up now. The world needs more dreamers like you, more people with hope in their hearts. The road ahead may not be plain sailing. Ushering in a new age in times of change never is. You're being encouraged to remember that what you've been working toward for so long is almost here. Don't question yourself now. Don't waver. Dig your devotion deep. For if you do, in the not too distant future, you'll be able to sit back and watch all that you've so carefully planted and nurtured grow and bloom. It's possible. Keep focusing on your dreams. You're closer than you think. Yeah, I think that's a really good card for this reading. And I think that there's a macro and a micro application of that, where there's something this year within the energy of 2024 that's coming to, not a breaking point, but there's a shift. Like, you know how a horse's hoof can make an impression in the mud? I don't know, I'm just laughing because I say it like you see it every day, but I saw that in my mind's eye. So, you know, like horses, imagine like the force that a horse like pivots with, like say it's running and it pivots and it goes in a different direction, like the smoosh, that really intense impression with like that outer ridge that the mud would have. Like, why am I talking about this? Oh, I see this full moon in Scorpio as this kind of deep impression in the mud, but right after it, there's a lot of, we land here with a lot of force. It's like, and then we go in a different direction. So there is something within this year. Yes, this card always applies, a new earth. We are working towards this sort of every year, all the time. But within this year, there's a new direction after the full moon in Scorpio tomorrow on April 23rd. It's also Earth Day, I believe. So just a great time to honor the changing of the seasons. At least, I mean, it's changing of seasons everywhere, but into spring, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, and sort of like, you know, the softening of the ground and the thawing of things, and how the rhythms of Earth always remind us that things have a way. Things have an innate intelligence about them. And when we can't feel into that, when we can't see that, and when we can't honor that, it's because we've become too disconnected from the natural rhythms of Earth. And if you ever need to be reminded of the fact that your life and your mind and your existence has its seasons and it has its own innate intelligence, you go outside and you reconnect, and you will be reminded. It might take a little bit of time. You might have to go repeatedly out to the woods to reground. It depends how long you've deprived yourself of the ability to sync your energy with something that is of the whole, you know. Nature, the seasons, the animals, the plants, they don't need permission or instruction to grow and do their thing in the way that they do. They're informed by the wise energy that sustains all things, as are we. So with that, prayer and contemplation, ask and you shall receive. I just wanted to cut the deck to get a final message. It's charity. Connect with heaven. All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Take some time to just like affirm yourself and how far you've come. And have a great day.